Namaste, and welcome to our continuing series, Essays on the Gita. We are in the chapter Sankhya, Yoga, and Vedanta, as always with our beloved Ranga, and we are beginning with the sentence in the first 6 chapters, the Gita. Okay?
In the first 6 chapters, the Gita lays a large foundation for its synthesis of works and knowledge, its synthesis of Sankhya, Yoga, and Vedanta. But first, it finds that karma, works, has a particular sense in the language of the Vedantins. It means the Vedic sacrifices and ceremonies, or at most that and the ordering of life according to the Grihya Sutras, in which these rites are the most important part, the religious kernel of the life. I read the whole para first. By works, the Vedantins understood these religious works, the sacrificial system, the yajna, full of a careful order, vidhi, of exact and complicated rites, kriya vishesha bahulam. But in yoga, works had a much wider significance. The Gita insists on this wider significance. In our conception of spiritual activity, all works have to be included, sarva karmani. At the same time, it does not, like Buddhism, reject the idea of the sacrifice. It prefers to uplift and enlarge it. Yes, it says in effect, not only is sacrifice, yajna, the most important part of life, but all life, all works should be regarded as sacrifice, are yajna, though by the ignorant they are performed without the highest knowledge and by the most ignorant not in the true order. Avidhi purvakam. Sacrifice is the very condition of life. With sacrifice as their eternal companions, the Father of creatures created these peoples. But the sacrifices of the Vedantins the sacrifices of the Vedavadins, there is a difference, okay? So we'll discuss that. The Vedavadins are offerings of desire directed towards material rewards, desire eager for the result of works, desire looking to a larger enjoyment in paradise as immortality and highest salvation. This the system of the Gita cannot admit, for that in its very inception starts with the renunciation of desire, with its rejection and destruction as the enemy of the soul. The Gita does not deny the validity even of the Vedic sacrificial works. It admits them. It admits that by these means one may get enjoyment here and paradise beyond. It is I myself, says the divine teacher, who accept these sacrifices and to whom they are offered. I who give these fruits in the form of the gods, since so men choose to approach me. But this is not the true road, nor is the enjoyment of paradise the liberation and fulfillment which man has to seek. It is the ignorant who worship the gods, not knowing whom they are worshipping ignorantly in these divine forms. For they are worshipping, though in ignorance, the One, the Lord, the only Deva, and it is He who accepts their offering. To that Lord must the sacrifice be offered, the true sacrifice of all the life's energies and activities, with devotion, without desire, for His sake and for the welfare of the peoples. It is because the Vedavada obscures this truth and with its tangle of ritual ties man down to the action of the three gunas that it has to be so severely censured and put roughly aside. But its central idea is not destroyed. Transfigured and uplifted, it is turned into a most important part of the true spiritual experience and of the method of liberation. So, we have discussed a lot also about this, the Purva Mimamsa and Uttara Mimamsa, Karma Kanda and Jnana Kanda. That is the difference between the Vedavadins and Vedantins. Okay? The Vedavadins are those who use the sacrificial rites. Okay? Physically also they do that. And their aim is enjoyment in the world. Okay? Fulfillment of their desires. You want more children, you want wealth, you want success. And after life, they want liberation and enjoyment in heaven. That's their purpose.
And how is that possible?
It is possible, the Gita is saying.
Yeah.
He's admitting.
But he has to cast it aside.
If you want a higher purpose.
Right.
Okay. Because we've discussed this also last time, that sacrificial right, the question arises whether these sacrificial rites, you have an altar built, and then you have a sacred fire, there's an altar place, and then you go on offering by chanting of mantras. You offer, there is ghee poured, the flame is kept alive all the time with all sorts of sacred grasses and all sorts of other things, okay? Small. I attended one sacrificial, it lasted for 2 hours and they were offering all sorts of things into that fire, chanting the mantras, okay? So, the question arises whether that is effective. Gita is saying, yes, it is effective. And I referred to you also about mothers doing the same thing once because of the rain.
For the rain.
Yeah.
Yes.
So, it does have an effect. It does not have an effect. But it has to be done in the right way. Vidhi Purvakam. It has to be done in the right way. Even the mantras have to be pronounced in the right way. Because if you don't pronounce in the right way, the vibrations will differ. And the vibrations are very important. What vibrations are you creating? Okay, so it's a very elaborate and complex thing, but there is an effect. In fact, to such an extent that I've heard it said, I don't know the mantra myself, but if you have lost something, you chant this mantra, okay, and you can recover even lost things. So I don't know, it goes to that extent. But the Gita is admitting it. And mother did it once, as I told you. Okay, rain was not there and we needed rain, and she made the children go in the pattern and then chant. We want the rain, we want the rain.
Right.
Okay, we go through each sentence. Good. In the first 6 chapters, the Gita lays a large foundation for its synthesis of works and knowledge. Its synthesis of Sankhya, Yoga and Vedanta. Sankhya is the works of knowledge. Yoga, although the word is used in the Gita in the sense of yoga, but it is Karma Yoga.
Karma Yoga. Yes,
Karma Yoga. Yes. And Vedanta is the philosophy of the Upanishad, Prasthana Traya. The Vedanta consists of the Upanishads, the Brahma Sutras, and the Gita. These 3 constitute the Vedantic philosophy. Okay, so that's Vedanta. But first it finds that karma means works. Okay, in the West they have identified the word karma with the law of cause and effect.
Yeah, fate. Yeah.
But actually it doesn't mean that. Okay, the karma is the works that you are doing. Okay, they have extended the meaning of karma to that, but it's okay, it's all right. Because the law does work that way. But it finds that karma, works, has a particular sense in the language of the Vedantins. It means the Vedic sacrifices and ceremonies, or at most that and the ordering of life according to the Grihya Sutras. Now the Grihya Sutras are rituals, works containing directions for domestic rites and ceremonies. Okay, so if you enter a new house, what are the mantras to be chanted and how it is to be done? Okay, if you are beginning a conference, how it is to be done. If a newborn child is there, what are the rites to be performed? When even the child starts his education, for everything in India, there is a religious ceremony attached to it with meaning. But now the meanings are largely lost. So, because of disuse and whatever it is. So, these are the Griha Sutras, in which these rites are the most important part. The rites, the physical rites, the religious kernel of the life. Okay? Everything in India is related to religion. Everything. Whatever you do, there is always that. Then, by works, the Vedantins understood these religious works, the sacrificial system, the yajna, full of a careful order, vidhi. It has to be done in the right process and the right way and the right sequence of exact and complicated rites. Kriya Vishesha Bahulam. So these rites are not just haphazard things. They are very, very scientifically and very, very systematically arranged. It has to be done in the right way. Okay? The Kriya Vishesha Bahulam. I remember reading Life of Rama in Sanskrit with my teacher, and there was a verse which said that the pronunciation of the mantras has to be very correct. I still remember that, because the sound waves being produced are important. And what are the sound waves being produced? So, Kriya Vishesha Bahulam. But in yoga, works had a much wider significance. Yoga means the yoga of the Gita, which means karma yoga. The word karma takes on a much wider, not only the sacrificial rites and the Griha Sutras, but much more. All work is to be included. Whether you are walking, whether you are eating, sleeping, whether you are working, everything has to be offered to the divine. That's karma yoga. Okay? You don't do anything for yourself, but you do everything for the Lord. The Gita insists on this wider significance. Okay? In our conception of spiritual activity, all works have to be included. Sarva karmani. Everything, whatever you are doing, think of the divine, associate the divine with any work that you are doing. At the background of your consciousness, the idea of the divine is always there. And this is possible, although difficult, but it's possible. And Ramakrishna had given a very interesting example for this. How to do works in the physical world. He had given the example of a maidservant who has got a 1.5-year-old or 2-year-old child at home, but she has to work to earn her living. So she has to come to a house, she has to wash the clothes, she has to do the cooking, she has to wash the vessels, she has to sweep the floor. But always part of her mind is on my child. Is he safe or not? So in the background of your consciousness, the idea that the divine is there, supporting you, helping you, and even guiding you. So that should be there. That's the spirit in which karma yoga has to be done. Okay? So that's the interpretation that the Gita gives. Okay? And also Srindu, in our conception. So that's also Srindu is saying. Spiritual activity, all works have to be included, sarva karmani. At the same time, it does not, like Buddhism, reject the idea of the sacrifice. Gita is not rejecting the sacrifice. There is some validity to it. But it has to be used in the right way and expand the meaning. Not in the sense of the Vedavadins. The Vedavadins are those who use only the sacrificial rites for satisfaction of desires, success in the world, and afterlife, going to heaven, immortality in heaven, enjoyment. Okay, so at the same time, it does not, like Buddhism, reject the idea of the sacrifice. It prefers to uplift and enlarge it. Yes, it says in effect, not only is sacrifice, yajna, the most important part of life, but all life, all works should be regarded as sacrifice. Are yajna, though by the ignorant they are performed without the higher knowledge, and by the most ignorant not in the true order, avidhi purvakam, without the right sequence and the right order. Sacrifice is a very condition of life. Now, that's a very interesting idea, and it can go from the highest spiritual heights to religious rites, and even to practical life in the world. And what is the sacrifice? You are offering everything to the divine. And there is an exchange. This whole idea of sacrifice is based on the principle of the unity and oneness of the creation. You can't do anything without the association of the unity and the rest of humanity. It's very, very practical. There has to be an exchange. You have to give and receive, give and receive. This idea is there very much in Indian philosophy. You are interacting with the universe, and the universe is interacting with you. Okay? The universe is interacting with you through your senses, and you are interacting with the universe through your, what are called the Jnanendriyas and the Karmendriyas. That we have discussed several times. The Jnanendriyas are that which is giving you knowledge of the world. Eyes, ears, nose, tongue and touch. So, these senses allow you to have contact with the physical world. The world is interacting with you. You are also interacting with the world through your hands, your legs, because I can use my hands for an effect in the physical world. Okay? I can pat somebody, I can slap somebody, there is an effect in the physical world. Okay? And the two organs at the lower end of the body and your speech. Your speech can have a tremendous effect in the world. It can be kind, it can be cruel, it can change the destiny of people. So this is the way you interact. So connectedness is the real idea of sacrifice. So it is so simple. Okay? Even if you go to buy something, you have to give money and then you get the thing. So this idea of exchange and interaction is very important in sacrifice, which the Marwandis understand very well. Okay? On their safe also they will have, on the one side they will write Shubha and Labha. Profit is justified, but you must also give in charity and also do good works, good deeds. Shubha and Labha. So that is understood by them. Okay? So this is the meaning of sacrifice. So even though in the chapter synthesis of the sacrifice, he has begun and given the whole quotation from the Gita also. When the Lord created the world, he created in a connected way between the gods and men. And with the interaction of the gods and men, both will grow, both will prosper. Okay? That's the idea of sacrifice. So this is what he's saying in very short here. He says, sacrifice is a very condition of life. You can't live alone. It's the cure for the egoistic tendencies in the physical world. You have to depend on others. And the more you depend on others, depend means interact meaningfully with others in a non-egoistic manner, you will benefit. If you act in a egoistic manner and do works only for yourself without giving, the Gita says you are a thief.
And those who want to live alone in silence?
Pardon?
Those who want to live alone in silence?
Yeah, okay, but they're not doing any work then.
No.
The Karma Yoga is not coming into the picture.
Right.
They are following the Jnana Yoga path.
Right. Exactly.
And there also, there is some sort of an effort and a interaction with the gods. No? Something is there. But this is mainly in the Karma Yoga, in the Gita. So, sacrifice is a very condition of life. With sacrifice as their eternal companions, he has just told you very simply. Okay, so he has said, sacrifice as where is it gone? With sacrifice as their eternal companion, the father of creatures, Prajapati, created the peoples. But the sacrifices of the Vedavadins are those who do it for their own benefit in an egoistic manner, are offerings of desire directed towards material rewards, desire eager for the result of works, desire looking for a larger enjoyment in paradise as immortality and highest salvation. So, even that is there, and this also largely humanity understands. When you want something, you pray to the divine, money is put into the Hundi. Hundi is the collection box of in the temples and all that. Okay, so that is always there. I'll tell you a very interesting story about a person who came here, a businesswoman, and she said, "Yes, I know something about the mother, but I've come in Pondicherry. I want to make a hotel. Okay, I want to build a hotel, and I will see if mother is going to help me with that. My faith in mother will increase if I can succeed." Now, this is not sacrifice. This is commerce. So that's not the spirit in which this is done.
Yeah.
And who is interested in your faith? You have your faith, don't have your faith. But I'll give you a better example, okay, of this interchange used in the wrong way. Okay, so when I was in the press, we had to buy a machine. Okay, quite an expensive machine at that time, 25 years ago. Maybe 30 years ago, we had to buy a machine. It cost about 40 lakhs. So the sales manager of all the companies come and do their marketing with you. Okay. So this man came and he said, "Look, I am a devotee of mother." And he took out a blessings packet from his pocket and said, "See, urging me that you better place the order with me." Okay. And you know, I always send money to the mother. Okay. Whenever I am in difficulty, I send 100 rupees and my difficulty gets solved.
Oh, yes, I remember this.
I told you about this.
Yes.
Then I asked him, suppose the difficulty doesn't get solved, what happens? You know what he said? I send another 100 rupees. Pure business. This is not sacrifice. Sacrifice is without desire, without any wanting. You just give yourself fully. So, this is what the Gita is saying, that everything is connected. And the sacrifice is done by the ignorant without the knowledge and without their consciousness that they are doing it. Just as you go into a shop and you give money and get your watch or whatever you want, it's also an interchange. The principle of sacrifice. You have to give to get. Okay? But it is done mechanically by most humans. But it has to be done absolutely in a conscious manner without asking for anything. It has to be giving only. So that's what he's saying. Okay. So this enjoyment in paradise and desire for works, so the satisfaction of desires, is not what the Gita accepts. This the system of the Gita cannot admit. For that, in its very inception, starts with the renunciation of desire, with its rejection and destruction as the enemy of the soul. The Gita does not deny the validity even of the Vedic sacrificial works. Okay? It admits them. It admits that by these means one may get enjoyment here and paradise beyond. It is I myself, says the divine teacher, who accept these sacrifices and to whom they are offered. I who give these fruits in the form of the gods, since so men choose to approach me. But this is not the true road, nor is the enjoyment of paradise the liberation and fulfillment which man has to seek. It is the ignorant who worship the gods, not knowing whom they are worshipping ignorantly in these divine forms. For they are worshipping, though in ignorance, the One, the Lord, the only Deva, and it is He who accepts their offering. Srimad said something very interesting. Even if it's there in the Gita, that even if you offer to the gods, the lesser gods, okay, ultimately that offering will reach me, the Supreme Divine. So they are doing it ignorantly, but I will finally receive all those things, says the Krishna. Okay, so and worshipping through ignorance the One, the Lord, the only Deva, and it is He who accepts their offering. To that Lord must a sacrifice be offered. The true sacrifice of all the life's energies and activities, with devotion, without desire, for His sake and for the welfare of the peoples. The welfare of the peoples, there is a phrase in the Gita, Sarva Loka Hite Rata. You are engaged when you have reached a certain height of spiritual consciousness, you are not doing anything for yourself. You are doing it only for the others. You are doing good works. but for the others. For the maintenance of the world, loka sangrahanartham, and also for the good of the peoples. That's what Shendra is quoting here, for the welfare of the peoples. It is because the Vedavada obscures this truth with its tangle of ritual ties, with its tangle of ritual, ties man down to the action of the three gunas, that it has to be so severely censured and put roughly aside. But its central idea is not destroyed. The central idea of the sacrifice. Transformed and uplifted, it is turned into a most important part of the true spiritual experience and of the method of liberation. So Karma Yoga includes all work, not only the sacrificial rites. That's what is being said. Okay? We read the next one, and it's a very big para. Now he comes to the Vedantic idea. The Vedantic idea of knowledge does not present the same difficulties. The Gita takes it over at once and completely, and throughout the 6 chapters, quietly substitutes the still immutable Brahman of the Vedantins, the one without a second, immanent in all cosmos, for the still immutable but multiple Purusha of the Sankhyas. Okay, so I'll read the whole para and then we'll come back to it. It accepts throughout these chapters knowledge and realization of the Brahman as the most important, the indispensable means of liberation, even while it insists on desireless works as an essential part of knowledge. It accepts equally nirvana of the ego in the infinite equality of the immutable, impersonal Brahman as essential to liberation. It practically identifies this extinction with the Sankhya return of the inactive, immutable Purusha upon itself when it emerges out of identification with the actions of Prakriti. It combines and fuses the language of the Vedanta with the language of the Sankhya, as had already indeed been done by certain of the Upanishads. Okay? And he has given you especially the Shvetashvatara Upanishad as a footnote. But still, there is a defect in the Vedantic position, which it has to overcome. So what is that? We may perhaps conjecture that at this time, the Vedanta had not yet redeveloped the later theistic tendencies which in the Upanishads are already present as an element, but not so prominent as in the Vaishnava philosophies of the later Vedantins, where they become indeed not only prominent but paramount. So, it's I decided to read the whole thing, then we'll come back to it. It's quite a complicated, it needs a lot of explanation. Okay, so the later, as the Vaishnava philosophy of the later Vedantins, where they become indeed not only prominent but paramount. We may take it that the orthodox Vedanta was, at any rate, in its main tendencies, pantheistic at the basis, monistic at the summit. Okay? It knew of the Brahman, one without a second. It knew of the gods, Vishnu, Shiva, Brahma, and the rest, who all resolved themselves into the Brahman. But the one supreme Brahman as the one Ishvara, Purusha, Deva, words often applied to it in the Upanishads and justifying to that extent, yet passing beyond the Sankhya and the theistic conceptions, was an idea that had fallen from its pride of place. So that also there is a footnote. We'll read the footnotes afterwards when we are going through again. Okay? So I'll read that sentence again without the parenthetical part. Okay? But the one supreme Brahman as the one Ishvara, Purusha, Deva, was an idea that had fallen from its pride of place. Okay. The names could only be applied in a strictly logical Brahmavada to subordinate or inferior phases of the Brahman idea. The Gita proposes not only to restore the original equality of these names and therefore of the conceptions they indicate, but to go a step farther. The Brahman, in its supreme and not in any lower aspect, has to be presented as a Purusha with a lower Prakriti for its Maya. So to synthesize thoroughly Vedanta and Sankhya, and as Ishvara, so to synthesize thoroughly both with the Yoga. But the Gita is going to represent the Ishvara, the Purushottama, as higher even than the still and immutable Brahman. And the loss of ego in the impersonal comes in at the beginning as only a great initial and necessary step towards union with the Purushottama. For the Purushottama is the supreme Brahman. It therefore passes boldly beyond the Veda and the Upanishads as they were taught by their best authorized exponents and affirms a teaching of its own which it has developed from them, but which may not be capable of being fitted in within the four corners of their meaning as ordinarily interpreted by the Vedavadins. Again another footnote. We'll see that one by one. In fact, without this free and synthetic dealing with the letter of the scripture, a work of large synthesis in the then state of conflict between the numerous schools and with the current methods of Vedantic exegesis would have been impossible. It's a very big para and very complicated. We'll have to go into great detail for that. So, basically what he's saying is that the Vedanta was mostly the Upanishads. It's the path of knowledge. The path of love and devotion as developed by the Gita is not so clearly explained and referred to in the Upanishads. It is there, but it's not so clearly and specially insisted on as in the Gita. Okay? In the Upanishads, there is Purusha Prakriti, there is spirit and matter, there is Brahman, and the idea of Purusha and Prakriti also is there. Brahman and the physical world, spirit and matter. That's all. But the Gita is going one step more. It goes to the third level. The first level is our ignorance, where Prakriti is doing its works. The second level is the spiritual planes of consciousness, where the Brahman is the immutable, ineffable, infinite consciousness. The Brahman, which the Buddhists interpret as Nirvana. Okay? It is a static condition and impersonal aspect of the divine. The Gita is going one step more. It goes to the third level and puts in the idea of the Ishvara, the personal aspect of the divine, Purushottama. So it gives three levels, whereas the Upanishads are very, not so clearly distinguish only two levels. There is a reference to the third level, but not as something very separate. That's what he's saying. He has said that elsewhere also. So this is the basic thing what he's saying in this big para. The Gita goes beyond and gives the third level. So we'll come back to it next time. Okay?
Okay.
But I've given you in brief what he's saying in this.
Mm-hmm.
Then you want me to read the next para? Okay. The Gita in later chapters, he has spoken about 6 chapters. So now he's saying in the later chapters, there are 18 chapters in the Gita. And if you read continuously shloka, it will take you 2 hours to complete. The Gita Parayana is often done in many places. It takes about 2 hours to do. 18 chapters. Okay? So 6, 6 and 6. So,
but Sri Aurobindo's essays are 24 and 24.
no,
it takes a lot longer to read that. It takes me 1 hour to read 1 chapter.
Only reading.
Well,
not explanation.
Recording. Only recording, yes.
Yeah.
Yeah.
We'll finish the chapter. The Gita in later chapters speaks highly of the Veda and the Upanishads. So although it is going beyond them, it's speaking highly of the Vedas and the Upanishads. They are divine scriptures. They are the word. The Lord himself is the knower of Veda and the author of Vedanta. Vedavid, Vedanta Krit. Okay? The Lord is the one object of knowledge in all the Vedas. Sarvair Vedair Aham Eva Vedya. In all the Vedas, I am the one who is to be known. That's what it means. A language implies that the word Veda means the book of knowledge and that these scriptures deserve their appellation. The Purushottama, from his highest supremacy above the immutable and the mutable, has extended himself in the world and in the Veda. Still, the letter of the scripture binds and confuses, as the apostle of Christianity warned his disciples when he said that the letter killeth and it is the spirit that saves. Okay? And there is a point beyond which the utility of the scripture itself ceases. The real source of knowledge is the Lord in the heart. I am seated in the heart of every man, and from me is knowledge, says the Gita. The scripture is only a verbal form of that inner Veda, of that self-luminous reality. It is Shabda Brahma. The mantra, says the Veda, has risen from the heart, from the secret place, where is the seat of the truth. Sadanad Ritasya Guhayam. Guhayam in the cave. Okay? Sadanad Ritasya Guhayam. That origin is its sanction. But still, the infinite truth is greater than its word. Nor shall you say of any scripture that it alone is all sufficient and no other truth can be admitted. As the Vedavadins said of the Veda, Nanyadastiti Vadinah. This is a saving and liberating word which must be applied to all the scriptures of the world. Take all the scriptures that are or have been, Bible and Quran and the books of the Chinese, Veda and Upanishads and Purana and Tantra and Shastra and the Gita itself and the sayings of thinkers and sages, prophets and avatars. Still, you shall not say that there is nothing else or that the truth your intellect cannot find there is not true because you cannot find it there. That is the limited thought of the sectarian or the composite thought of the eclectic religionist, not the untrammeled truth-seeking of the free and illumined mind and God-experienced soul. Heard or unheard before, that always is the truth which is seen by the heart of man in its illumined depths or heard within from the master of all knowledge, the knower of the eternal Veda. So, he has said that also in the synthesis. Very clearly he says, all the scriptures are already there in you. Okay, you have to only experience it, bring it out. Yoga is not something to be learned from outside. It has to be there within you.
But the line about being in the heart gives the knowledge. That's a little different.
Where is he saying that?
The real source of knowledge is the Lord in the heart. I am seated in the heart of every man, and from me is knowledge.
Yeah. The real source of knowledge is he's referring to the Gita, I think, okay? And in the synthesis very clearly he says that there are two grappling hooks. One is in the heart and one is in the self. They are the two grappling hooks by which you start the yoga. So, the Gita gives a lot of importance to the heart. the love aspect, the devotion, which is not there so clearly in the Upanishads. It's more towards the knowledge aspect. It is there, but not so clearly spelled out.
Yes.
So, what he means by this is that I am seated in the heart of every human being. And I am the knowledge, I am the Veda. That's what is meant. Not in the ordinary sense of knowledge and love and devotion. So, that's just, I am the source of all knowledge and everything. That's what he's insisting on. You have to interpret it in that way. Okay? So,
Very good.
we'll
And
take it up
next
next
week
time.
we'll begin the yoga of the intelligent will.
Okay.
Namaste all. Namaste. Tomorrow at 6 p.m. we have Savitri.